game they love, with the joy and passion of children. This great group of hockey guys, skating as the Flying Fossils, asked if I would do the honor to share these few moments of what Johan meant to us. Now I could sum it up quite quickly by simply stating that Johan meant everything to us. But I'll share a few of the stories that some of the group have sent to me over the email or passed along to me in conversation in the last few weeks. I'll start with an email that was sent to us from one of our players who's off on a holiday in Spain right now. It begins, so here we are on a last-minute cycling trip in Spain when we received words of Johan's passing. Well, it sure put a dent in any vacation feeling we had, and gave serious thought to just calling up the airlines and getting the first available trip back home, where we should be with you all this evening, remembering, mourning, and celebrating the larger-than-life Johan. This was sent by Steve Robodoc Spencer to Milty, and Milty passed on to me. Milty replied to him, "Put your mind at rest, Steve. You would want you riding around Spain and thinking of him. So you're doing all the right things, so don't worry. Click some miles for all of us, and especially for Johan." Well, Steve said, "I've been riding and thinking of Yo, and there's been more than a few times I've been suffering on some of the climbs of a road here in this area, and I've thought about turning around or stopping or slowing, and then I've thought, Johan would be hammering up here. And that's been enough to keep me going. Actually, trying to ride for Johan is kind of kicking my ass. Can I stop?" So, it also brings to mind some of the stories that Steve held of Johan. One week after hockey, in the shrine known as the Fossils locker room, Yo looked across the room at Milty, Proby, and Steve and said, "You're just the three guys I need to come with me on this road bike trip I'm planning. It's 3 days, 300 kilometers a day." Exactly. A small trip for Yo. So Milty, the wildest and most veteran rider of them all, looked skeptically at Yo and said, "Yo, what's the farthest you've ridden in a single day?" Yo replied, "Well, when we were in South America, we did 450 clicks in a day. 3 jaws hit the floor." Steve suggested Terry, Don, and he could each ride 100 kilometers each a day with Johan. So he'd have somebody with them for each. And they'd spend the other 200 kilometers drinking beer and cheering Big Yo on. The second thought Steve had was also happened at Fossils, and Johan had just been released from the hospital in Kelowna following his first surgery, and he called Danny D, which is me. He called me up. He said, he could just make it to the hockey game on Tuesday night, but I'd have to pick up his gear for him and have it at the rink, and he'd meet me there. For Steve, any thought that we might be dealing with a mere mortal quickly disappeared. And the last and best memory of Johan was on one of our ski trips down to Anders and Stacy's in Montana a couple winters ago. We named the trip Five Fossils and a Guy Named Al. We dragged young Al Eagleton along with us to enjoy. We had 3 glorious days of fabulous skiing, and maybe some beer and a bit of scotch. But Yo was in between surgery and chemo, radiation, and it was the only time I've ever come close to keeping up with him. And like I said, no mere mortal. And this is the Johan I will always remember. I'm going to picture him from now on, finally getting to ski and ride and play hockey with people who can actually keep up with him for a change, instead of waiting around for mere mortals like me. Sorry we're not there with you all. Give Yo a send-off that befits him. We're here in Spain thinking of the big guy. And as always, riding in his shadow, Steve and Samantha. I just got that actually yesterday, and I read it, and I thought through it, and there was, of course, so much that rang true of Johan and his character in there. But I was thinking about what Steve shared, and there was something in his message and his words that just didn't fit right for me. And then I realized when I read it, probably for about the 6th time, that it was the final words that he used that were giving me trouble. For he had stated that he was riding in the shadow of Johan. And that was never how I felt, and I don't think how anybody really felt when they were around Joe. Now, I won't argue that as mere mortals, we always had to battle to the fullest to try and keep up with him. But I also felt that when I was with him at the rink, in the mountains, on the water, I was riding on a huge wave of brightly shining light that always shone around him. For he always passionately pursued what was in his heart. And for us of the Fossils, playing the game of hockey was definitely something he loved to do, and we got to see him do it. By the way Johan played each and every game, he was telling us that our time together meant everything to him. And I know that to be able to share in the powerful life force that was and still is Johan meant everything to the members of the Fossils. Now, in case a few haven't heard of the Fossils before tonight, I'll just give you a little bit of what this group of guys is all about. The name, for instance, which is quite often shortened just to the Fossils, may be somewhat deceiving, especially if you're one of the few true hockey fans that have been out to witness an East-West game. But looking around the room tonight, with the abundance of gray hair on top of the red jerseys, you might be led to believe that Fossils merely signifies it's a collection of old guys having fun. But for me, the Fossils really reflects that down-to-earth, rock-solid nature of the group of guys. After spending just a short amount of time amongst the Fossils, you quickly realize that to a man, the team is a collection of warm-hearted, genuine guys who gather to enjoy and celebrate life by playing a game with grit, intensity, determination, and a great big grin each and every week. And I would venture to say that those characteristics are the epitome of what Yo's spirit is. He was a natural fit with the team, and his presence in the Fossil jersey only served to magnify the experience of the game. No one brought more passion, determination, and joy to our Tuesday night games than Johan. He'd dash into the dressing room a few moments before the pregame skate, having just finished reading a few bedtime stories to Kai and Tal. He'd complete a round of greetings with all the guys, listen to one of Coach's jokes, begin throwing his gear on as Mr. Howard wandered between the two rooms, beginning to pick teams. Joe would lean over quiet to me and say, "I think Bobby will put us on the same side tonight?"